York Jets general manager Darren Muji just made another sneaking good signing that we'll dive into on today's show, and that was at the defensive tackle position. Then on the second half of today's show, I do want to talk about the financial impact that cutting Justin Fields would have on the Jets books for 2026 and 2027. What's up, everybody? My name is Patrick Seatman, and welcome into the Jets Report by Chat Sports. So here's the breaking news. Khalen Saunders is expected to sign with the Jets, and then the Jets' main Twitter page did make this official. But this is coming in from Tom Pelissero saying the two-time Super Bowl champ is the latest veteran addition in New York, where Aaron Glenn is working to build the culture. But Khalen Saunders, he had some options at some other places, and those were including the Ravens, the Colts, and the Cardinals after being released by the Jacksonville Jaguars earlier on this week. And I thought it was a little interesting that he decided to sign with the Jets over teams like the Ravens and the Colts, true Super Bowl contenders in the AFC. So I think he was just trying to get to a place where he can play his way into a contract either with the Jets or another football team. Because if you go to one of those other teams, even the Arizona Cardinals, they got some good defensive tackles over there in Arizona. And then with the Ravens, they're loaded at D tackle. The Colts, they're loaded at D tackle. But the Jets definitely have a massive need at that position. So I'm assuming Khalen Saunders is saying to himself, hey, what if I go out there, play some good football with Aaron Glenn and this New York Jets team? Maybe I could prove myself to that front office, to that coaching staff that I deserve to be here. But at bare minimum, he's probably trying to put some good tape out there to try to get him another contract this year and or this upcoming year in free agency. But let's welcome him to the New York Jets. Another big body joining the defensive tackle unit, so that's good stuff there. But let's welcome Khalen Saunders to the Jets. Type those KSs down below. He is a very fun player. He actually has a famous play when he was with the New Orleans Saints against the Kansas City Chiefs where he had a pick in the end zone. He ended up running it for like 30, 35 yards, and he's a big fella. But he was absolutely moving. So he is a fun personality. Seems like a good dude. So let's welcome him to the New York Jets. Type those KSs down below. All right, but let's talk about why this is a sneaky good signing for the New York Jets. Because I think you're adding a guy who, like Tom Pelissero said, was a two-time Super Bowl champ with the Kansas City Chiefs. So he has those winning intangibles. He knows what it's like to be in a winning organization with the Jets trying to kind of go in this full rebuild mode where they're trying to get more winning players in there. Khalen Saunders does fit that bill. Now, he did play his college football at Western Illinois, where he ended up being a third-round pick, number 84 overall, back in 2019. And then he was a two-time Super Bowl champ with the Kansas City Chiefs. But my favorite part about Khalen Saunders, he's got a big old belly on him. He is a big dude at that defensive tackle position. He is only 6 foot tall, but he weighs 324 pounds. So if you just want that big defensive tackle who's going to take on double teams, open up lanes for linebackers, Khalen Saunders is just that. Now, he didn't play good football this previous season. Only played in actually 25 snaps when I was looking it up. But, there's no doubt the Jets, they needed to make an addition at the defensive tackle spot because, yes, you got Harrison Phillips, you got guys like Juwan Briggs, you got some other guys working in there, but they really don't have any depth at that position. So I'm assuming Glenn was looking at this guy saying, hey, big body defensive tackle, we'll get him in here to help improve the Jets' run defense. And, this was definitely just a position of need for the Jets. Is this a needle mover? Is this going to change life here in New York? Absolutely not. But I do like what he brings. I like the winning side, the winning intangibles he has. And he's just going to make a solid addition to the defensive tackle unit. Now, speaking about the defense, the Jets should attack defense big time this offseason. I'm talking free agency and I'm talking the NFL draft. Maybe you go try to draft this guy, Caleb Downs, from Ohio State, because I think, the biggest position of need for the Jets is the safety unit. So if you could go get a potential all-pro player in Caleb Downs, that would be awesome. But you got almost $100 million to spend in free agency this upcoming year. You got a boatload of draft capital. Use all of that. Use all of those resources and go make this defense great again. Hopefully it ends up working out. But some of the top positions of need on the New York Jets as we, even though we still got 7 games left, I'm sure you guys are all thinking about the offseason here. But I think number one for me, it's got to be the safety position because I don't expect them to bring back Andre Sisco as he is set to be an NFL free agent. So I don't think he would have too much interest coming back. I don't think the Jets would bring him back. So you got guys like Tony Adams, Malcolm Moore, just probably the least amount of talent at a safety unit in the entire NFL. So that would be number one for me. Try to get a couple of safeties in there. And then you got to bring in some cornerbacks because Brandon Stevens, he's all right. definitely has been playing a lot better as of late, but he did struggle last Thursday night against the Patriots. Then you're hoping a guy like Az Thomas can develop into something, but still still you have Jarvis Brownlee there, but you just need more help at the cornerback spot, and then the defensive tackle position. I would probably say though, if you're looking at this, these three are the top three, and then there is a significant gap. Like I would have the Jets safety, cornerback, D tackle. We could maybe even throw linebacker in there with Quincy Williams set to be a free agent. But then you could also go out there, find a wide receiver 2, find a wide receiver 3 if you don't love what you see from John Mechie or A.D. Mitchell for the remainder of 7 games. And then honestly, edge rusher, because clearly they don't view Will McDonald as an every down edge. Only use him on true pass rush situations. So if you want to go get an every down guy, get an upgrade from that Michael Clemens spot. Now, the good thing about the edge rusher position is you do have a blue chipper in Jermaine Johnson. So it's not like you're going out there and trying to find top of the league talent. In my opinion, you already have one, but you got to get some depth there. You got to get a guy across from him. And hopefully Will McDonald can continue to develop. But I think these are my top 5 positions in need for the Jets. But safety, cornerback, got to improve that secondary. Those two are 1 and 2 for me in terms of my top positions of need. But you guys let me know, what is the biggest position of need for the New York Jets heading into this offseason? I think it's safety and cornerback. But if you guys disagree with me, if you guys have some other thoughts, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What is the biggest position of need for the Jets? Today's episode of the Jets Report is brought to you guys by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you pay your first $5. Now, Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, and you can pick up to the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. For example, if you want to pick more on Tyrod Taylor's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns, as he is the starter for the Jets this weekend in Baltimore, well, now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. You guys can also follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like. Hit that follow button and check out every lineup they create in the brand new feed tab on Prize Picks. So download the Prize Picks app today, plug in that promo code CLNS, get hooked up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. A massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, so what sparked this conversation on the back half of today's show was Rich tweeting this out. Hey, ask Rich. You got to ask Rich everything. If you know, you know. But he said, looking ahead, if the Jets cut Justin Fields before June 1, they will have a $22 million cap charge, so dead cap. And Aaron Rodgers will also account for $35 million in 2026, so potentially $57 million on the cap for former Jets quarterbacks. Not a good situation. Like, clearly the Jets are behind the 8 ball here, but I think this is a situation where you might just have to bite the bullet. And, that's not where you want to be when you are a rebuilding team, but you want to clear up that cap space. And, you could keep Justin Fields on the roster for next season. Like, I don't think that's completely out of the realm of possibility, but in my opinion, I would just cut him. I don't even know if you could view him as a quality backup quarterback at this point, because you got to change the offense so much compared to who that starter is, especially if you go out there and you draft a Mendoza, you draft a Ty Simpson. Like, do you really want Justin Fields to be the backup QB or that stopgap QB? I'm going to probably say, my answer to that is no. But there's another alternative here. You could make him a post-June 1 release, which would lower the dead cap money in 2026. It would only be $13 million compared to $22 million. Now, we saw the Jets do this with Devontae Adams, and you just designate him as a post-June 1 release. This could even come before June 1, so you wouldn't have to wait till that deadline. But it would save you $10 million in cap savings. And if you do that, like this number of $99 million, it would, still drop to $96 million, but it wouldn't drop, all the way down to $77 million if you make him a pre-June 1 cut. So that is where the Jets cap space stands right now for 2026. And like I was saying, you got a chance to really get a whole different vibe and energy around this team with how much assets you have. Now, again, that's kind of a hypothetical. Like, if you don't spend these resources well, maybe you were kind of more of the same, but you do have all the assets you want if you were a GM. I mean, you think about any GM in the NFL. If you said, hey, you're going to have 7 premium draft picks over the next 2 years, you're going to have $100 million in cap space in 26 and a boatload more in 27. Like, most GMs would say, hell yeah, sign me up for that. But I think the New York Jets, listen, they're going to look completely different over the next couple of years. Like, you really don't even have confetti guys anymore. Like, I think maybe you have, you love what you see from Armand Membu. You like what you see from Fashanu. You like the offensive line. Like, Garrett Wilson would be a guy that will probably be with this team for at least the next 4 or 5 seasons. But like defensively, like Jermaine Johnson, that's probably it. The only guy you would have there. So this Jets team is going to look completely different, especially on that defensive side of the ball. And you got some big decisions to make this offseason because listen, I'm a massive fan of John Simpson. I think he'll be brought back no matter what. But then you got Elijah Vera Tucker coming off a season-ending injury. Do you want to pay him? Probably pretty good money for an offensive guard. I still think he would demand a decently high contract, even with his injury history. But then you still got, Quincy Williams there. So you have some free agency you make a decision on, which could lower that cap space number, down to potentially 50, 60 million. But you still have a boatload of money to spend. But again, it all comes down to the quarterback position with the Jets, and that's just reality of the NFL. And if the Jets go out there and they draft a guy and they get a Ty Simpson, Fernando Mendoza, and they look good, like that could make like this whole regime feel different about or how we view this regime. Because if you go out there and you land and you build a really good roster, if you don't get the quarterback right, like you're not going to win a lot of games. But if you get that quarterback right, maybe you don't build the most complete roster. Like this, take the Patriots for example. They got Drake May. It's completely different there in New England. So it all comes down to getting that quarterback. But I think in terms of Justin Fields, just cut him, bite the bullet on that, and then see what you got moving on for the next couple of years. But if you guys want the Jets to draft a quarterback, give me those me's down below. I think this is a must-do for the Jets. We'll see. Anything is on the table for them with all the resources they have. So appreciate you guys watching today's show. Shout out to all of you guys, and we'll get on out of here. As always, go Jets.